Hello guys, good morning. Today I'm going to do a really quick review in order to prepare you for your quiz. So we're going to start off with sexual. Okay, let me move it more this way and let me zoom in. Okay, we're going to start off with sexual versus asexual reproduction. Okay, sexual versus asexual reproduction. I'm going to use two colors, pink and blue. I'm going to use or purple and blue, pink for sexual and blue for asexual. Okay, so for sexual, it requires two parent cells. Okay, it requires two parent cells. Unlike asexual reproduction, it requires only one parent cell. Okay, for sexual reproduction, there's fertilization and pollination. Okay, so that's the method of reproduction. And for asexual, it requires, or it goes through binary fission or budding. Okay, and you can reference back to your notes. So there are some advantages for sexual reproduction. So I'm going to put those in a little star. This one creates genetic diversity. Creates genetic diversity. Okay, so organisms can adapt better. They don't all look the same. They can withstand different environments. And in asexual reproduction, it takes less time and energy. Okay, these are advantages. Now for disadvantages, I'm going to draw a sad face. Okay, in sexual reproduction, it takes lots of time and energy. And for asexual reproduction, and disadvantage, put another sad face here, is that there is very little genetic variation. So I'm just going to put little genetic variation. Okay, little genetic variation. I'm going to just draw a line right here, right now. Okay, so we've got our sexual and then asexual reproduction. So remember, for sexual, you do require 2 parents. So you're going to have the female egg and your male sperm. So I'm going to draw the egg, and then I'm going to draw the sperm. And when these fuse together, they're going to give you an offspring. Okay, they're going to give you an offspring. In asexual reproduction, you have the binary fission way, which is just basically the original cell goes through a process of, it starts splitting in half and finally giving you 2 organisms. Or you have budding, and hydras are a really good example of budding. So you're going to have your parent cell, and then you're going to have that parent cell, have something on the side, grow something on the side, and then eventually that one's going to fall off, and then you're going to have, 2 organisms. Okay, so that's sexual versus asexual reproduction. Now, moving on to learned behaviors and inherited traits. So I did divide the paper in 4s, just so that I could, fit in more information. And this is actually going to help you a lot when we are reviewing for the unit exam. Okay, so please be paying attention to this. Here we go, red and blue. For learned behaviors, so I'm going to title it up here. Where's my marker? Learned behavior versus inherited traits. Oops, that looks ugly. Inherited traits. And again, I need half of this one. Okay, so for learned behavior, remember that that's an organism learned during the lifetime. So this is a behavior learned during their life. Examples would be, walking, talking, crying, writing. To mention some of them. Now, for inherited traits, those are going to be characteristics passed from parent to offspring. Okay, passed from parent to offspring. And these could be examples, for example, hair color, height, eye color, and many more. Okay, so that's for learned versus inherited traits. Now, the last thing we covered last week was DNA. And remember that with learned behaviors, nothing's coming from your DNA, but with inherited traits, it is actually all found in that magical special DNA strand. Okay. And remember that this DNA strand holds all of this information that our parents are going to give us. Okay. Next one, of course, is going to be, and I just mentioned it, is going to be DNA. Okay, DNA. And remember that stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. Okay, DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. Now, let's remember that DNA, okay, is a molecule that stores genetic information. So it is a molecule that stores genetic information. Okay, and this is getting stored in our nucleus. Okay, it's getting stored in our nucleus. When the DNA spins or gets wrapped around a protein, it creates a chromosome. So, when DNA is wrapped around a protein, it creates a chromosome. Okay, so when it wraps around that protein, it's going to create a chromosome. So I'm going to draw our chromosome. Okay, right there. It's going to create a chromosome. Now, a specific area section of DNA codes for a trait. Okay, and this is actually a gene. Okay, so if I draw my DNA strand, sorry. Okay, if I draw my DNA strand right here, Okay. And remember, I'm just, drawing a really simple sketch of DNA. Okay, this area right here, a specific area, that is going to be your gene. And every gene is going to code for a specific trait, like eye color, hair color, and so on. Now, my favorite part of DNA is the, nitrogenous bases and how they are going to pair with each other. Now, remember that I gave you a mnemonic for this, and it was apples in trees, cars in garages. And these letters stand for the first letter of the nitrogenous base. So we have adenine, move it up, is going to pair with thymine, and cytosine pairs with guanine. Okay, adenine pairs with thymine and cytosine pairs with guanine. Now, the last thing we talked about was basically heredity. And for heredity, we blame this on Gregor Mendel, right? He is the father of genetics, and he did this by looking at pea plants. So I'm just going to put here heredity. And this is from yesterday's notes, heredity. So, Gregor Mendel, he did this, this lab or this observation where he was looking at pea plants, and he was looking specifically at, pod color, flower color, and why are some coming out, purple, and why are some coming out white, and why are the peas yellow, why are the peas green? So it all comes down to our genes. And our genes, they are found in a specific location in the DNA. So let me go back to my DNA strand. This is a gene, and this is going to code for a specific protein that's going to code for, a hair color or eye color. Now, let me... orange. Genes are found in our DNA. Okay, let's just start off with that. Now, what do? Well, they're going to determine the traits. Genes, they determine the trait. And we're more familiar with physical traits, so things that we can see like eye color, hair color, and so on and so forth. Now, physical traits are things that we can see. I'm just not going to write that. But where are we getting these genes from, or who are we getting them from? Well, 50% of our genes come from mother, and 50% of our genes come from father. So whatever gets expressed is basically dependent on how these genes are going to interact with each other, and what we're getting. And the different variations are going to be called alleles, right? So we have two variations of alleles. The first one is dominant, and that is a character or a trait that is always seen. Okay, a recessive one is a trait that is only seen when a dominant trait is not present. And whenever we're talking about dominant alleles, or we're talking about going back to our genes, right? So a dominant trait is going to have a capital letter. And a recessive one has a lower case letter. Okay? And every trait is going to have the specific letter. So I'll go into that right now. Now, there are two really or more important vocabulary. So homozygous, meaning the same. Means same. Hetero means different. So how do I apply this whenever I say, well, I have a homozygous dominant, trait? Well, let's say we're talking about eye color, and we have an offspring, and this is an example, so I'm going to put EX. The offspring has a genotype capital B, lowercase b, where capital B is dominant, right, capital letter, and lowercase b is recessive. So because it has a different case, so the letters are the same, B, B, but they're different in the aspect of it's a capital letter and a lowercase letter, this means that they are heterozygous. Okay, they're heterozygous. And they are going to express this trait because this one is overpowering. It's dominant. And the same thing goes if I say, well, the offspring has a genotype little b, then I would go and see, okay, lowercase letter, it's recessive, so, but it's lowercase b, they're the same, so it's a homozygous recessive trait. Now, the last words, and I mentioned it right now, is your genotype. And that is going to be basically these letters, which are called alleles in DNA. Okay, so we're talking about these letters right here. Whenever I'm talking about genotype, I'm talking about the letters. And whenever I'm talking about phenotype, I'm talking about physical traits. So, how does a person look? Does it have brown eyes? Does it have blue eyes? And so on. So, this is really going to help you, right? All of these tiny little notes that we did today are going to help you a lot in your quiz. So, your quiz is 10 questions long, multiple choice. And it's automatically going to get graded. So you'll probably have your results as soon as you take your quiz. That is it for today. Once you're done with your quiz, keep catching up on any assignments that you have pending. Or if you still have not taken that Spanish placement exam for Ms. Gonzalez, please do so. It is super, super important for you to get that done today, no later than 4 p.m. Have a great day, guys, and I will see you tomorrow.